If you want to buy a home but you don't know when to start or where to start or who to contact first, this video is for you because I'm going to break everything down for you. The first step is to find an agent. Now you can find an agent online, or you can get a referral from a friend, or if you're vibing with me and you're in Minnesota, my contact information is in the description box. But it's a good idea to talk to an agent first so you have somebody to help guide you from the start. The next step is to get pre-approved. Now, since you already talked to an agent, they can give you some recommendations of loan officers that they've worked with before and that they trust. At the end of the day, you are welcome to work with whoever you want. If the agent tries to tell you that you have to work with their lender, well, that's a red flag, but just know you're welcome to work with whoever you want. Something I also want to warn you about, though, is sometimes you'll see lenders online and it says interest rates are like around 7 right now. They say something like 5% interest rate. Just be very wary of that because that's going to come with a lot of hidden costs. When you meet with a lender, they're going to go through a couple of different programs that are available to you so you can kind of choose what's best for your situation, including down payment assistance programs, which can help cover your down payment and your closing costs. Once you're pre-approved, you're going to find out what your max spending limit is, and that's why it's a good thing to meet with your realtor after you figure that out. If you meet with the realtor, they're going to want to know like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, square footage, and all that. And if you meet with them and you say, I want 4,000 square feet and I want a 3-car garage and I want 5 fireplaces and a balcony and all that, but your price point is like 300,000, that's gonna be difficult to find, if not impossible. So know the max that you want to spend. It doesn't have to be, of course, it doesn't have to be your max limit, but know the max that you want to spend before meeting with your realtor so that they can kind of show you a few things that are in your price range. Once your realtor figures out everything that you want, your must-haves and deal breakers, they're going to usually set up like an automatic email because it's hard to keep up on the houses that are coming up on the market because it could be uploaded at any second. The automated email system is going to send them to you right when they hit the market. But my suggestion is when you are deciding what kind of criteria you want in a house is to keep it as broad as possible. Anything that would work for you, put that into your search because they can always go in and change it later if you decide, okay, this is absolutely a deal breaker. I can't deal with this. Don't send me homes like this. Okay, then go in and change it. But just so you don't miss anything, try to keep it as broad as possible at the beginning. So once you find a home that you like, then you can just let your realtor know. I like my clients to give me at least a 24-hour notice. Unless it's like a house that I'm like, okay, that's gonna be gone frickin' tomorrow, let's go see it. At least 24 hours. Find something that works with both of your schedules. But something I do wanna warn you about is that when you do start the search, when you do start looking at homes, things can feel like they're happening super fast because as soon as you submit an offer, it's like 30 to 45 days and then you're gonna own a house. So just be aware of that things can happen kind of quickly. Everybody finds their home at a different pace. I've had buyers that found their house, like they put an offer in on the first house they saw, and then I've had other clients that take 5-6 months to find something that's fitting for them. It all depends. Everybody's a little bit different. So once you start seeing homes and then you find one that you like and you're like, okay, I'm ready to make an offer. Your realtor is going to submit an offer for you. And the seller is going to take about 24 hours to get back to you. I have had them get back to me within like a couple of hours, but normally around 24 hours for the seller to make a decision. If the seller accepts your offer, at that time, you're going to need to submit your earnest money down payment on your down payment. And it's essentially telling the seller that you're serious about buying the home and that if you breach the contract, you're going to forfeit that money to the seller. Now, if you have a good realtor, they're going to make sure that you don't miss any deadlines. But if you decide last minute that you don't want to buy the house, then you could risk losing that money. As far as the amount of earnest money you need to submit, it can really be any amount you want, but sellers normally like to see at least 1%. I can't stress this enough. When your offer is accepted, do not finance anything. Don't finance furniture. Don't get a new credit card. Nothing that could can and most likely will interfere with your financing. So something you definitely want to avoid. So once you submit your offer, it's accepted, and you've submitted your earnest money, you and your realtor are going to schedule an inspection. Your realtor should have suggestions for inspectors, but again, that's another thing. You can use who you want, not something that you want to cheap out on, that's for sure, because this is going to tell you all the things that are wrong with the house. So you want somebody who is highly qualified. The length of your inspection period depends on what was negotiated in the purchase agreement or the contract. Let's say for this example, it's 5 days. You need to have the inspector go out there, write up the report. You need to have time to review it with your realtor and submit the request and have the seller sign off on them before the end of that period. Once you've had a chance to review the inspection report, you can either back out because of something that you found in the inspection, or you can take the home as it is and move on to the next step, or you can negotiate some repairs with the seller. If you do decide to request repairs from the seller, just keep in mind not to have a super long laundry list of items that you want fixed or repaired. The seller is going to be a lot more likely to negotiate with you if you're not asking for a bunch of small stuff. So just remember to focus on big ticket items. Sometimes the sellers won't want to do the repairs, or maybe you don't even want the seller to do the repairs and you want to do them yourself, or you have a friend that's a qualified professional. The seller can also agree to cover part of your closing costs instead of doing the repairs themselves. The seller doesn't have to agree to the credit or the repairs, and if that's the case and you don't want the house unless those items are completed, then you're gonna have to cancel the contract before the end of that inspection period. All right, so you got everything negotiated and you're done with the inspection period. The next step is the appraisal. The appraisal is when a qualified individual goes to the home to determine the value, and then they use data from similar homes that have sold in the area, usually within half a mile or a mile, square mile, and then they determine the value that way. This is really of no value to you. This is just for the bank because they want to make sure that they're not lending on something that isn't valued at the purchase price. One of three things can happen with the appraisal. One, it can appraise at the value that you agreed to purchase it at, and then you move on to the next step, everything's fine. Another thing that could happen is that it appraises above value. That's freaking awesome. You actually are getting the house for less than it's worth. But then the third thing that could happen is that it appraises under value. So I'll give you an example to make that easier. Say that you purchased a house at $300,000 and the appraisal came in at $290,000. You're gonna have a couple of options there because the bank's not gonna give you the loan for the $300,000. Either the seller's gonna have to agree to come down in the purchase price, or you're gonna have to come up with the cash to make up the difference, or you can meet in the middle. So you don't have the cash to come up with the difference. You're gonna have to cancel the contract, but you would get your earnest money back. Normally, the seller's not going to want to put the home back on the market and go through all the other steps again. So a lot of the time they will come down to the appraisal value, but just know that they're not required to do so. So other things that are going to be happening during the 30 to 45 day period before you close, you're going to be in pretty close contact with your lender. They're going to need to confirm your assets and your income and your job history. They do that on the front end, but then the underwriters, the ones that are processing the loan, are just going to dig a little bit deeper into that. Another thing that you're going to need to be doing during that period is shopping for home insurance. I definitely recommend to get at least 3 quotes, and if your state has it, I highly recommend to get service line insurance. In Minnesota, it's only like $50, but it covers you if there's like a blockage in your pipes and it like leaks in the basement or sewage backup. It'll cover you for that. I mean, you can get different coverage, but just keep that in mind. Once you've chosen your home insurance plan and you've had all your financing zipped up, the lender is going to give you what they call the clear to close, and you'll have some time to review all the documents for accuracy. And then after that, you're gonna wanna set up your utilities. You can ask your agent to ask the listing agent who the seller uses for gas, electric. Normally you have to call the city for water. And then you put all the utilities in your name. You just give them a call, you say, hey, I'm closing on this day, this is my name, and then they'll just set everything up for you. They do it all the time. Totally used to it. And then the most exciting day, closing day, but there is one more step before you actually go to the table to sign all the paperwork, and that's your final walkthrough. During your final walkthrough, you're gonna make sure that the seller completed all the repairs that they were supposed to. If they're, you needed a new fridge, or they needed a new fridge, and then you gotta make sure that that's there, and they did anything else they needed to, and you wanna make sure all their stuff's gone and that everything is in order. And then from there, you go to the closing table, sign all the paperwork, and the keys are yours. If you want a more in-depth explanation of how to choose an agent, watch this video next.